Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to today's Mongil Star Dive video. So we have just completed the story mode, and in today's video we're gonna do the ultimate progression guide where we share some tips and tricks as well as pointers to take note of in order for you to progress efficiently in this game. So I saw some comment in my day 1 progression guide that this is Mongil Star Dive, not Mongil Star Rush. But I think you can enjoy the game at your own pacing. In today's video, I'm just going to share some tips and tricks for those of you guys who want to maximize your resource efficiency as well as progress as smoothly as possible. Okay, so without further ado, I'll start off with the first pointer, which is the settings portion. So this is actually really important because previously I was on the Path of Dust difficulty, which was actually more challenging. And what I realized between the two difficulties is that the main difference is just the difficulty in the boss fights as well as the dungeon monsters. So the rewards are the same, right? You go through the same story in general and you get to enjoy the full experience in most cases. So this is where, like, if you are somebody who seeks out efficiency, you want to reach the end game dungeons, your resource farming as soon as possible, then the Path of Dawn is the way to go to get there faster within like 3 or 4 days if you want to rush through the content. So that's with regards to the difficulty setting. Other things to take note of will be setting up your camera setting. The screen sensitivity, rotation, as well as the target cameras are important when you are doing all your boss fights. There are certain fights which I managed to clear in a very short amount of time. There are certain fights which takes a while, and then it's really down to the wire in terms of completing the fight. So all these settings to maximize your proficiency in your combat is one way to increase your pushing efficiency. So that's with regards to the settings portion. Next up, let's talk about the units as well as the rationale for training them and the different builds I have when I cleared the story. So first of all, I think the amount of resources required to clear the Path of Dawn, which is the casual game mode, is actually lower than Dust, because Dust is more challenging. You need your units more built up. So if you're somebody who's more resource conscious, you want to have the ability to clear the game with as little resource as fast as possible, then the casual mode is the way to go. Even though, right, if you want more challenge, right, Dust gives you that ability to experience the game at a tougher difficulty, but at the end of the day, you get the same thing in terms of rewards, and it's just a lot easier and also less resource intensive to clear through the casual difficulty. So I'll recommend you go through the casual difficulty if you're more conscious on those factors. Obviously, if you like your challenges, you like things hard for yourself, then go ahead and challenge the Dust side. So that's with regards to the difficulty selection. So for the units, I had Sangun as the main carry with it at level 60. And for Cloud as well as G1, both of them were at level 50. So I leveled G1 to level 60 to prepare for the Conquest game mode. So if you are going for the more casual difficulty, I think one hyper carry with sufficient stats across the board will be sufficient to finish the game. So this is my skill point, leveled up fully to level 7 because this is the main unit with the DPS. So we want to max out the skills so that he's able to hit as hard as possible. And the reason why it's only at level 7 and not any higher is because the efficiency to convert to the purple powder is very low at the lower materials when we are at the lower difficulty. So I decided to just level this to level 7 across the board, and then once we reach the end of the story, that's where we're able to farm the final dungeon and we'll get the maximum efficiency on the purple as well as the golden material for higher levels. So this is where we get more purple here. So one thing about all these dungeons is that you might not actually get all these stated higher quality materials, but you just get a higher rate of getting them. So there's a possibility that you can just get blue and green even at a tougher dungeons, at least based off what I realized. So in terms of the dungeon farming efficiency, you genuinely just want to farm the dungeon whenever you lack resources. So that's pretty much it, right? You don't have to care too much about the ultra late game efficiency. So you want to care about it a little bit, but like you can actually be a little bit inefficient whenever you need additional resources. So that's with regards to the farming side. And then if we go back into our unit, so the equipments as well as the gearings are as such. So for the artifacts, I would strongly suggest you max out your artifact for your main damage dealer. And for the equipments, 3-star equipments is more than sufficient to progress through the story. Like you don't actually need the 4-star sets in general. So you can obviously craft the higher equipments over here. So you can craft all your 4-star as well as 5-star stats, and you can get some of them from the Conquest game mode, but that will be for the more end game side of things, right? For the progression side, you simply need 3-star equipments, and you can actually selectively level the equipments based off how you use the character. But because Sanguine will be the unit that stays on the battlefield, so I leveled up everything to level 12 for the survival stats as well as the offensive stats. So the shoe is very important. Proficiency increases your additional damage output. And the glove is important for the attack stat, especially on the carry. As for the two other equipments, if you are not using this unit as the tank or the unit that stays on the battlefield, then you can actually keep them at a lower level for some resource efficiency. So that's for the equipment portion. I have farmed up a 4-star equipment right here, the Assault Squad leather boots. So this was from one of the farming that I did from fighting one of the boss on the request board. So it's possible to farm the 4-star equipments. But if you do not have 4-star equipments, it's perfectly fine because like 3-star is sufficient to carry you through the game, like myself right here. And then for the other stuff such as the skill level side, as you guys can see, we are all on the lowest tier. So honestly speaking, for the units in general, you will just need one unit with very beefed up stat. Like in fact, even for the monster link portion, as you guys can see, we only have our main unit's monster link leveled up for the maximum stat output. So generally speaking, I did a lot of stat stacking so that we are able to, survive with Sanguine standing on the battlefield. We are able to take hits. We have more room for error. And then for the monster links portion, you want to make sure that all your units have at least one link chain active. So you only can have one link chain unit represented by this link over here. So all 3 units have one link chain activated in order to proc additional damage output as well as the ability for additional heals from their effect over here. So if we take a look at their rank effect, we have recovery of HP upon 10 basic hits. And then if we go into Cappy Mama, recover HP upon landing a special skill. So all this additional rank effect with the heal will allow you to survive better, giving you more room for error. So in terms of the monster link portion, I'll be crafting another video to talk about all the link chains related in-depth guide, as well as which link chains to look out for. However, as far as progression is concerned, I think specifically Cappy Mama as well as Goric, they are insanely strong. They are really beginner friendly because they appear in one of the earlier dungeons. So let's say if you're in chapter 1 or even chapter 3, you should be able to encounter the boss fights for these 2 units so that you're able to level up the link chains more easily for more damage over time. And both of them have the ability to recover HP upon landing a special skill or landing 10 hits, right? Which are very easy to achieve. So they're very beginner friendly, very easy to farm, and I would strongly recommend you to go for it if you have issues surviving or if you just need the additional heal to push through contents in general. And next, for the skill side, if you take a look at my clouds levels, I haven't actually leveled this skill for quite a while after I switched the difficulty. So I honestly believe, let's say if you are doing this on the lower difficulty, you do not actually need all these additional skills to get to the end game, right? You don't have to level this to finish the game because with enough stats as well as your skill levels on your main carry, which sticks on the battlefield for the longest time possible, you should be able to clear it. And generally speaking, the earlier dungeons, they are less efficient compared to the final dungeon. So if you want to have more dungeon farming efficiency, especially for all these character level up materials that cannot be refunded, then you just want to focus your resources on skill levels of your main DPS. So secondary DPS is something which you can level along the way. Unless you're hard committed on your secondary DPS, this is where you can level this further. So I'll probably level this now that I'm able to farm the highest level dungeon for maximum efficiency. So that's for the general builds as well as the ideas for progression for the different units and also the resource allocation part. And next up, let's talk about the daily to-do list. So these are things which you want to make sure you clear daily, or at least make sure you have cleared out so that you don't waste the daily resets. So first of all would be conquest. Personally, for myself, I actually tried to do the dungeon runs in increasing difficulty because first of all, we get the first clear gems whenever we clear through the low difficulty, and I can benchmark my power level while clearing the guidelines over here. So there are certain guidelines that requires you to clear the conquest bosses at certain difficulty. So by doing all the conquest difficulties in an increasing order, you are able to get your first clears, you're able to gauge your power level of your team, as well as clear through your Manon's guide. So that's for Conquest. So this resets daily. So do take note. At the very least, you want to try to increase the difficulty as you clear. And then if let's say you are stuck on the maximum difficulty for your account, you can't move on further, then at least use the auto clear to clear up the runs to get your currency for the Conquest shop. So this shop over here in the early game is extremely helpful, especially for some of the late game materials like Chain of Divine Retribution, as well as the superior chest for the breakthrough over here. So these are some of the very good progression items you can purchase with this Conquest currency right here. Next, if we take a look at another late game mode, which is Dimensional Rift. I just unlocked this one today. Not sure what's the reset timer for this one, but there's actually, I'm not sure how often this resets, but there's a reset timer at the bottom. So just take note to actually do this by the end of the reset timer, because all these tickets, they will get recharged after the reset timer. So you don't want to waste the 3 recharges from Conquest as well as the recharges from Dimensional Rift. So for this one, I'll take a bit more time to explore, to craft up the guide, so stay tuned for that, but that's the endgame content. So with that, you have cleared up all the different tabs over here, as you guys can see, and then you want to make sure you finish all your different quests whenever you need the resources. So for myself, we still have a whole bunch of side quests that we need to clear, but all this will just give me more summons, more gems, as well as more adventure EXP right here. So I'll do that after this recording. And last but not least, you want to clear through your daily requests as well as your daily contributions for the free gems, as well as your link chains in general. So those are the daily to-do lists. Now moving on to the gacha battles, I think Esther is a unit which you can definitely roll for. Ideally, if I had done a reroll, I wouldn't actually hunt for Sanguine. So Sanguine was basically like the first choice that I got when I started the game, and I decided not to reroll. So I went with Sanguine as well as G1 to start the game, and then I committed the summons for the regular stuff onto the Crest recruitment right here. So we get Sanguine specific weapon. So this will boost up my carry's damage, and that's where I've been spending my gachas in terms of the additional summons. So I've kept the raid up summons as well as the raid up artifact summons right here. So there's individual preference in terms of what you go for when you first start off the game. So ideally, you want probably another carry from another element. So you can actually use that additional tickets to go for Esther and then form a win team like myself with Esther as well as G1. So that will be, I think, a more ideal way to do it. But for the gacha side of things, personally speaking, I think most of these units should be able to carry you to the end game, especially if you are running the 5-star units and you commit your resources to them. So that's with regards to the gacha recruitment side. And for crafting, this will be very helpful for those of you guys who need that additional push in damage. In the early game, you are looking at crafting these 3 stars. Personally, you don't need all this to push through the content. So this will be like the late game hunt for the various 4-star stuff, because this purple materials only comes after you complete the later stages. So in the earlier stages, you won't be able to get all this purple stuff, so you won't be able to craft it anyway. And then for the food portion, right? So crafting and food will be quite important, especially cooking, because cooking gives you the additional step boost for 30 minutes on most of the dishes. So if you're still struggling with damage and survival, then this additional boost from the food side of things, whenever you are doing the boss battle, would be really helpful. So for me, I would actually consume a food item and then rush through like a few map all in one sitting, because there's a 30-minute duration. So this additional stats last for quite a bit, and we can use it to defeat multiple bosses within one chapter of the story in general. So that's for the cooking side. So we have the ability to unlock more recipes, which I will try to unlock and discuss about if there's a demand for it. So let me know in the comment section down below if you need a cooking guide or even a crafting guide in general. So that's for the cooking and crafting side. Moving on to the next part, if we take a look at the monster hunting portion, there's actually a shortcut to search for the location for certain units. I think this is especially important, especially for the bossing monsters that you want to revisit. You go into the Codex, click on the source and go into capturing to find the sources where all these monsters come from. So you can hunt for their specific monster link. So you click on this one and then you teleport to this one and you'll be able to see whether or not the boss exists here. So for some of the lower level bosses like Cappy Mama as well as Goric, I think the spawn rate is about 2 per day. So I assume it's a 12-hour reset between the time you kill the boss. So I'm able to get 2 per day based off my farming experience on the past few days, but I will take a bit more time to see how it works for the purple color one, because for the purple color one, such as the Plains Minotaur is actually really good. So this one is actually really good. But so far, I've never been able to generically encounter it from the plain entrance. So I assume for some of the higher rarity bosses, the only way to get them is from Request Vault as well as the Dimensional Rift. So this is where Plains Minotaur will come. But then like you can't see him here. So far, I have never encountered this unit naturally. So that's for the Monster Link side. But you can use this to search out for your Monster Link or even the link chains more smoothly, in case you're wondering where all these monster links are on the different maps. So that's for the Codex as well as the different tabs you can use. So with regards to the efficiency in dungeon farming, ideally you want to be able to max out your keys to resource output efficiency on the toughest dungeon that you're able to farm daily. However, if you're not as fast and you don't progress through the story that quickly, then what I would strongly encourage you to do is at least attempt all the different difficulty dungeons at least once, because you still get a little bit of Starlight Crystal. Even though you're not at the maximum dungeon efficiency, you get this premium currency which can be used for your summons or even more stamina purchases or key purchases. So you want to clear all these dungeons at least once for that, if you are not as fast in terms of progression. However, if you're like myself, I think what I'll do for this Vault of Greed right here is just jump to the highest difficulty to maximize my gold U, because this is gold is something that becomes very scarce later on. So this is where like I want to maximize my gold key to returns ratio. So that's for those of you guys who are faster. But if you're slower, then I'll strongly encourage you to do all the different difficulty dungeons at least once for this currency over here. So that's with regards to the resource efficiency portion. So in the progression side of things, I think experience is something that is very important. So we have done most of the experience dungeon to level our units. Monster Link is also pretty important. So we have done most of it as well, except for the higher difficulty one. So these are the ones that I use most of the energy on. So Artifact is one, Experience Training is one, and Monster Link Enhancement is one. Equipment Enhancement, so far, whatever is given to us in-game is more than sufficient. So for this one, I might just jump to the highest difficulty one so that we get the most resource efficiency on our golden keys. So that's pretty much it for this video. Just a simple run through of all the different progression tips and tricks with my own experience in the past few days, and hopefully this tips is helpful in terms of helping you progress to the end game as smoothly as possible. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more. I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.